Cajun Cardboard, coming at you from the great state of Louisiana. And today we're here to talk about rookies. A lot of you guys like to prospect on NBA basketball cards. A lot of you guys play NBA fantasy basketball. So there's lots of reason that we want to put particular attention on rookies because they could make you a lot of money in the card market, although that's become a lot harder in recent years than, say, it was in 2018, 19, 2020. The times like that, it's become much more difficult to prospect NBA players. Number one, the products aren't out on time, so you can't really buy the cards before the players pop. Number two, they don't even come out in the same year sometimes as the player's rookie season. We're still getting rookie cards of players who are in their second year. So that's the first problem. From a fantasy perspective, you know, in a redraft league, a league where you play year after year, regardless of whether it's points-based or category-based, rookies are tough to kind of prognosticate, and I think oftentimes rookies are overvalued in 8-category rotisserie leagues. I think people think rookies are more productive fantasy players traditionally than they are, and we're going to look at some of those fantasy metrics in a second. We're also going to look at rookies' PER and how PER is calculated. You guys hear this stat all the time, player efficiency rating. It was created by John Hollinger of ESPN, who's a super brilliant mathematician, analytics guru, and a big basketball aficionado. So we're going to take a little quick glance at PER, how it's calculated, and then we're going to look at the top rookies based on PER. So just rookie talk today. That's really all it is. There's no secret formula in this. I'm not going to come out here and tell you who the best rookies are or whose cards to go buy. We all have different opinions on that. And again, players' careers aren't made or broken in their rookie season. It's really hard to remember that. So much of the hobby, the card collecting hobby, and even fantasy basketball, if you're in a dynasty league, it may not be time to panic on certain players like a Jabari Smith. Or a Shadon Sharp, or I'm trying to think of some names, Atari Eason. So there are guys that if you're in a dynasty league and you can hold on to these guys forever, or for, a 5-year window, whatever your fantasy dynasty rules are, it may be worth holding on to these guys and ignoring the now and trying to project into the future and see what these guys are capable of. Potential means everything in the NBA. It means everything in the NBA draft for real GMs. It means everything to fantasy basketball, GMs, and it means everything to basketball card prospecting as well. So without any delay, first let's start with the fantasy perspective. I just want to pull up, I've got Basketball Monster pulled up, and I've got the 2022-23 player rankings for all of the rookies here. So I've got it sorted by rookies only. I've got it sorted right now by minutes, and this is modifiable, so we're going to go through and we're going to change it up. Let me make this a little bit bigger so you can see it. So I've got the rookies pulled up. Right now I've got it sorted by minutes. Hopefully you guys can see that on your screen. The first thing you'll notice is look over here in this rank section, okay? And we'll go back here. We'll sort it by rank right there. If you'll notice, Paolo Banchero, by all accounts, has been, in my opinion, by far the most impressive rookie that we've seen this season. He looks like a can't miss. I think his cards in the card market are going to be very popular. But from a fantasy perspective, and again, this is not points-based. This is an 8-category rotisserie ranking broken down on your screen here. Paolo Banchero, who has, by all accounts, destroyed it, is a less than average NBA player. If you look at his rank on the left, he's ranked 110th, which is about if you're in a 12-team league, that's around the ninth, the ninth round being drafted, 9th, 10th round player. He's not a top 100 player, but he has come out guns blazing. He did miss a few games that got dinged up. He's got 14 games under his belt. He probably missed 4 or 5 games, if I recall, with a little ding. He's playing a whopping 34.8 minutes a game, which is a ton for a rookie, and I'm assuming that's going to lead all rookies. Yeah, it is by far. He's 3 minutes more than Jaden Ivey, who's second. He's averaging 23 a game, 7 rebounds a game, 0.7 steals, 0.7 blocks. And so you're thinking to yourself, damn, he's put up really good numbers. He'd be a really good fantasy player. But what you guys got to remember is, the threes is a category. It matters just as much as points, blocks and steals, field goal percentage, free throw percentage. Those are categories that matter just as much as points, rebounds, and assists. It's hard to kind of differentiate and understand that all those categories are weighted equally. A 5-block game is just like having a 48-point night from Kevin Durant. And so That's why you see guys like Brook Lopez ranked so high, and a Miles Turner, and different guys like that. But what kills Banchero, as you can see on your screen, is his 72.9% free throw percentage on a bevy of free throws. 8.4 free throws a game is a ton. He's shooting 46% from the field, which is a bit below average, but he's taking buku field goals, 17 field goal attempts a game, 8.4 free throws a game. So those percentages are what's killing him. Now, here's what you need to remember. People get better at free throws. Players tend to increase their free throw percentage and increase their field goal percentage over their career. Is that an all-encompassing, hard and fast rule? No, it is not. But generally speaking, over the course of a player's career, those will improve. Again, you've got your exceptions, your Ben Simmons, your Giannis, and your Westbrooks. Shit happens, right? It's not the same for everybody, but generally speaking, players' percentages do get better more so than they get worse over their career. SGA is a great example. Look at what he's doing this year. De'Aaron Fox is a great example. Look what he's doing this year. Trae Young would be, obviously the other end of the spectrum. He's taken a step backwards in his percentages, so field goal percentage and three percentages specifically. And players will go through times like that, and they'll have aberration seasons, but generally speaking, those do get better. So for that reason, I think Paolo Banchero is a clear-cut diamond from a dynasty fantasy perspective. So he's over here on the ranking. He's the highest ranked rookie out there. Banchero, Ivy, Mathurin, Jabari Smith, and Keegan Murray would be the kind of the fifth guy. Those were kind of the big five. Like if you ask people before the season, and I think I even did a preseason video, I think my five all rookie team, I think was Banchero, Ivy, Mathurin, Jabari, and Keegan Murray. I think that's who I chose, if I recall. And four of those guys are in the top five. But again, those guys aren't super relevant from a fantasy perspective. Even Banchero and Ivy. Now, obviously, Ivy's shooting an even more hideous 42% from the field. He can't really shoot the ball proficiently from the perimeter yet. And so the question about Jaden Ivey is, is he Antonio Daniels or is he the next Ja Morant, right? Is he going to learn to really shoot the ball from the perimeter and really kind of hone that mid-range game, because he's got electrifying athleticism and ability to create his own shot. He's got a dog mentality, a great attitude, a kill attitude. The question is he going to learn to shoot the basketball, and is that going to get better? Like I said, if I was banking on players in this class, Paolo, Jaden Ivey, Mathurin, can't miss. Jabari Smith has picked it up as of late. You will not be able to look past this. 35% field goals for a guy who's almost 7 feet tall, 6'10", 6'11", is absolutely unacceptable. What's confusing about it is he's got a beautiful stroke. He's got an absolutely flawless shot mechanically, great balance, great legs, great foundation. He just looks really good mechanically. And as you can see, he's shooting 85.7% from the free throw line, taking only 2 a game. And it's usually harder to shoot a high percentage from the line when you're only taking 2 a game. Shooting 6 a game is easier because you get in that rhythm. And so you'll see percentages grow as they shoot more free throws because they just get in rhythm. But taking 10 field goals a game and making 3.5 of them is just unacceptable, especially for a guy who's 6'10", 6'11", who we know can shoot the ball. Now, part of the reason is he's shooting a hell of a lot of threes, I think. And so I don't have his 3-pointers attempted per game, but he's making 2 per game, which makes me think he's probably taking 6 per game. I just don't have it pulled up. But Jabari Smith's got great upside. I really like that Houston team going forward. I know people are going to bag on me and say they're awful. If they get Wembanyama, good Lord, look out. Because Şengün is a cannot miss fantasy basketball player. He's not the sexiest player out there. He's sort of like a sloppy poor man's Jokic, the way he plays, but he's got a great basketball IQ. He puts up great fantasy numbers. Benedict Mathurin is another one of those rookies. I think those 4 rookies are going to end up being pretty damn good fantasy basketball players. I would suspect all 4 of those rookies would find themselves somewhere in the top 100 in the next year or year and a half from a fantasy 8-category roto standpoint. Now, Tari Eason's an intriguing prospect because of the steals and the blocks and the energy. He's sort of like a Draymond Green type out there. He needs to get more minutes. He's only playing 18 minutes a game, and he's an LSU kid, so I got a chance to see him. He's not polished offensively, but what he lacks in polish and skill, he makes up for in just physical prowess energy, effort, just dogged mentality. He's just a nasty dog, man. He's just like a Ron Artest, like a Draymond Green. And when he's on the court, he is a damn problem on defense. I gotta believe at some point he becomes that missing piece for Houston. Like, I don't understand starting Eric Gordon at the 3 or whatever, or Jayshawn Tate, or I forget the white kid who shoots the ball. He's the catch and shoot guy. I think Tari Eason is the answer at the 3 because he doesn't need to get shots up to be a really effective player on that team. So if you can go Kevin Porter Jr., Jalen Green into your backcourt, you're set there. Obviously, they've got to grow together. You got Tari Eason at your 3, and then you got Jabari Smith and Şengün at your 4 and 5. Dude, that is a nasty starting 5 a few years down the road. They are going to be a serious problem for people, and I think the world's sleeping on them. If they get Wembanyama, good Lord, I have no idea how that turns out. If they get Wembanyama, that team is going to be loaded with talent. So I'm very high on the Houston Rockets, not this year, obviously, but going forward. So Banchero, Ivy, Mathurin, Jabari are can't miss. Tari Eason's a guy that you want to keep in your in the mix from a fantasy standpoint. From a card standpoint, I don't think he's ever going to be that dude. I don't think he's ever going to be the alpha or the beta for an NBA team, but he's a glue guy and a guy that you're always going to want on your fantasy team. Keegan Murray has been incredibly disappointing to me. I was very high on Keegan Murray. And I actually thought because how much Sacramento needed him and because he had Fox next to him, and really there was just a lack of anybody else on that team that can score the ball. I mean, Monk is outperforming Keegan Murray, which I never thought I would say because he's one of the most inconsistent players in the universe. But Keegan Murray is on another level of inconsistent. 28.8 minutes, so that's not the problem. He's getting on the floor, 10 points, 3.8 rebounds, 1 assist a game. 0.8 steals, 0.6 blocks, 40% from the field. Ain't cutting it, man. And honestly, for him to be making fewer threes than Jabari Smith's just kind of shocking to me. I did not expect that. So, Keegan Murray's very much underperformed. Jalen Williams, the Jalen without the Y. There's 2 Jalen Williams on the Oklahoma City Thunder. I'm talking about the kid from Santa Clara with the afro. He's a legit player. He's going to be a very good NBA basketball player. I don't know if it's going to translate sooner rather than later because of the way OKC, so many of their shots and minutes are eaten up by SGA and Giddey, but I like Jalen Williams a lot going forward. After that, I really like what AJ Griffin's done lately. In fact, I picked him up on my Dynasty Fantasy team. He was on waivers, so I just snagged him and stashed him. He'll have games where he looks really, really good. He is in love with the 3-ball, but despite that, he's shooting 46.7% from the field, 1,000% from the free throw line, but that's 0.4 attempts on 17 games, so I'm guessing that's about 4 for 4 on the season. So not much to speak of there. As far as usage rate, look at the guys that are getting their usage rate up over 20. Oops, did I just? Oh yeah, well that's not going to work. We're not going to do that because it's going to pull in a bunch of guys who have not played enough games and have a small sample size. But that's it, guys. That's what I wanted to look at. Just kind of some of these other names that you see on here. Andrew Nembhard in flashes. I don't think he's anything special. Jeremy Sochan is kind of like a poor man's Dennis Rodman, or he's trying to be. Walker Kessler is an intriguing guy. If you've got a fantasy basketball team and you've got a chance to snatch him and put him in your on your roster, and you've got a spot to kind of waste just to keep for future years, he's a guy that you definitely don't want to sleep on because shooting 71% from the field, and he's blocking 1.5 shots in 15 minutes a game. If you move that to 32, 34 minutes a game one day, like in 2 or 3 years, if they decide that he's their guy at that pivot position, right now they're playing Markkanen and Kelly Olynyk, which is kind of a weird pairing and a really poor defensive pairing. If they ever want to turn ultra defensive and plug Walker Kessler in there as their poor man's new Gobert 2.0, that 1.5 becomes 3.0. Now you're talking about something special. You're talking about one of the probably 4 or 5 best shot blockers in the NBA right now. If he got those minutes, I think you'd see that number go up massively. He's got a really good knack for shot blocking, and he'll be a good points and rebounds guy. So in points-based leagues, he'll be relevant as well. But his field goal percentage is always going to be sky high. The question is this an anomaly or is this how he shoots? It's a very small sample size. So 54% free throws, is that what he's going to do? I don't know who Drew Smith is, but what have I got this sorted by? I've got it sorted by rank. Drew Smith is a guy that's playing in Miami. He's played 3 games games. Jalen Duren has shown flashes. I don't think he's ever going to be that skilled offensive post guy, but points, blocks, rebounds, field goal percentage, he might be a guy. He's got good activity, a great NBA body already, physically developed. I just don't know what direction Detroit's headed. Obviously, he's in kind of a minutes battle there with, Isaiah Stewart and a couple of those other guys, just trying to figure out who's going to get the minutes with him and Bagley and Stewart and all those guys. Dyson Daniels is a guy I've seen absolutely nothing from him to make me think he's going to be a relevant NBA player. I know he's getting minutes. He's getting 16 minutes a game for my Pelicans. I'm going down to see him a couple times. To me, he just looks like he has no basketball IQ and he's completely lost. I have not seen anything from him, and that's why almost all of his stat categories are red except for field goal percentage. He just looks lost on the floor, and maybe it'll click one day. Maybe his basketball IQ is higher than I've seen because I've only seen a small sampling of him, but I don't see anything that would lead me to believe he's going to be anything special. Nikola Jovic, right? The other Nikola Jovic, not Nikola Jokic, right? We know what he can do, but this Nikola Jovic is ranked 289th, but he's somebody to keep an eye on. He's a big man who's got some skills, some Andrea Bargnani, for those of you who are older. He's a little thinner than Bargnani was coming in, who was the number 1 pick, I think, in his draft, but Nikola Jovic has got some skill stuff to keep an eye on. He might be able to be a relevant fantasy player one day in the future. Let's talk about PER real quick, okay? I said I wanted to talk about a little bit of how the rookies look from a fantasy perspective. You've had it pulled up there. There's your rookies right there. Again, Tari Eason's ahead of Keegan Murray despite the fact he plays 10 minutes less. That's a good sign for Tari Eason, a bad sign for Keegan Murray. And Jalen Williams is the one that I really think you should keep an eye on. So those top 5 or 6 is really where I'd kind of focus from a fantasy perspective. And again, I'll usually take more of I'm in a fantasy dynasty league, so I take a much different approach than most do, where I'm looking a little bit further down the line. If you can be patient with a guy and you can stash them, will they turn out to be fantasy gold later? So here's what I've got pulled up on your screen. I've got how to calculate PER. People are like, what is PER? Well, we know it stands for player efficiency rating, but we don't really know how it's calculated. In its simplest terms, it's all your good stuff minus all your bad stuff divided by minutes per game, and it spits out a number, a single number where you try to quantify how valuable a player is in the NBA. And so it's not a perfect science. There are some drawbacks. It doesn't take into account how you create your shots. It just takes into account the shots you actually make in this. Some guys are catch and shoot, which doesn't help the team as much as guys who can create their own shot when a shot clock's winding down. It doesn't take into account when you make your field goals, like field goals in the first quarter or blocks in the first quarter. Obviously a block's a block, but a block, with 10 seconds left in the fourth quarter to win a game is different than a block in the first quarter. It doesn't take into account whether you're producing these numbers against other starters or if you're doing it against bench players, right? That's the biggest thing that it doesn't consider. And then the other thing is you can't really quantify defense other than, defensive rebounding, blocks, and steals. And that's just not super accurate because there's some really fantastic defensive point guards out there. I'll use Drew Holiday for an example. He may not have a ton of blocks or steals. He's going to be great in steals, but he's more valuable than just his defensive rebounds, blocks, and steals. And so his PER, the PER is going to be heavily weighted more towards offensive players because so many of the stats that you're about to see are offensive, right? So, but this is the formula up here. So it's and it's weighted, and that's what you'll see with these numerical numbers to the right of the particular category. That's how John Hollinger, who created this formula, has decided to weight each one of these categories. So you multiply your field goals made by 85.9, steals, threes, free throws made, blocks, offensive assists, defensive rebounds, add all that stuff up. Offensive rebounds, defensive rebounds, you add all that stuff up. Obviously, he weights offensive rebounds significantly more than defensive rebounds, as he should, because those more oftentimes lead to points, right? And so offensive rebounds should be more valuable than defensive. And then you're going to net out all your negatives, right? Your fouls, your free throw misses, your field goal misses, your turnovers obviously are a big deal. So that's going to punish point guards probably a little bit more than bigs because they're going to turn the ball over a little bit more. So that's how PER is calculated. So why does that matter? Well, let's look at the rookies, right? I'm going to look at the rookies by PER. We looked at the rookie rankings here from a fantasy standpoint and where they rank. None of them were in the top 100. Let's look at their PER. The one thing I will tell you that you should understand and always remember is that 15 has been set as the baseline for the average NBA player. So 15.0 is the average NBA players weighted per minute PER, okay? So let's look at the rookies. I want you to first pay attention. The one thing you'll notice is 4 rookies. 4 total rookies have better than an average PER. Okay, so that's important to remember from a fantasy standpoint. It's also important to remember because this just isn't the strongest rookie class. And it's okay to say that because we've had a slew of classes that were absolutely incredible, going back to Doncic and Trae Young, and then, Zion and Ja Morant, and then LaMelo and Anthony Edwards is pretty nasty. Cade, Scotty Barnes, Mobley, Jalen Green. I mean, that's a pretty damn good class. And now we've got, Walker Kessler with the best PER of all these guys. The one thing that I noticed is that, Walker Kessler is one of the leading shot blockers in the league on a per minute basis, and his PER is 18.87. It makes me think the Utah Jazz need to put Walker Kessler on the floor a little bit more. He needs to play a few more minutes now. Paolo Banchero with a 17.87 PER. Tari Eason, as we talked about, as that glue guy, not necessarily your scoring machine, but when he gets on, he's got so much energy and such a good motor. He just impacts the game and makes good basketball plays. And I saw that. I got to see that firsthand sitting, courtside at LSU games on center court. And then Benedict Mathurin. And then my guy that I really like that I picked up that I talked about is AJ Griffin. I don't think AJ Griffin's a franchise cornerstone for a team or anything, but he's a son of former NBA player Adrian Griffin, who was just a mediocre journeyman pro. And then Jalen Duren, Jaden Ivey, Dyson Daniels, Trendon Watford in very small sample sizes in Portland, and then Andrew Nembhard. You got to get all the way down to 12th to find Jalen Williams, but Jovic is another guy that I mentioned. So look at the rookies. Only 4 rookies have a better than average PER. Only 4 rookies are better than average from an efficiency rating standpoint, according to John Hollinger. Keegan Murray is all the way down here at 7.91. That is really, really, really bad. Same with Jabari Smith. I mean, if you look at these other guys, they are not really performing at the rate that I think was expected for those 2 guys. Again, Keegan Murray worries me because he's in a very fertile environment where he's expected to do his job, which is score the basketball, catch and shoot. And Jabari Smith still is trying to figure it out because he's probably the 4th, and when Eric Gordon's on the court, he always thinks he's the first option, unfortunately for the Rockets. But, Jabari Smith is probably the 4th or 5th option offensively, so he's just not sure what shots are his to take, I think. And I think that will kind of work itself out over time. But I just wanted to show you guys this. Some of these analytics, value added, what is this? Estimated wins added. If we kind of calculate based on estimated wins added, Tari Eason's number 2. Walker Kessler's number 1. Jalen Duren's number 3. Lunch pail dudes, right? Lunch pail, guys that are slapping the floor and busting their ass and contributing to the team in ways other than scoring. And then the same can be said for AJ Griffin right behind him. So anyway, just something I wanted to share with you guys. Let me know what you think. My projected top 5 for NBA all rookie team and rookie of the year voting were, I think I picked Mathurin 1, Banchero 2, or maybe vice versa. I'm trying to remember, but I had those 2 guys, a clear 1, 2. And then I really thought highly of Keegan Murray. I thought he was just going to step in and explode. He has not done that, and I think his shooting is affecting his general contribution to that Sacramento Kings team, despite the fact that team's performing pretty well. And then Jaden Ivey, Jabari Smith, we just knew how many minutes they were going to get. The question was, where do they fit in? Like Jaden Ivey, I think, has kind of clearly carved out his role as the beta on that team. He's just got to do it more efficiently. And like we said, with Jabari Smith and Jaden Ivey, it just comes down to field goal percentage and like being more consistent with their field goal attempts and making more shots. That's really all it is. And then you got your sleepers that I really like, man. I really like your Walker Kessler and your Tari Eason from a fantasy standpoint. From a card standpoint, if you're asking me, hey, Cajun Cardboard, again, I don't buy very many ultra modern cards. I've sort of stopped prospecting because I think there's just too many printed out there that even what were considered, on the cursory level rare cards like NTRPA number to 99, well, there's gold and green and purple and yellow parallels now. So there's like a million NTRPAs, right? There's probably 1,000 gold serial number to 10 rookie options to choose from, right? There might only be 10 gold prism, but then you've got gold waves, and then you've got black golds, and then you've got gold optic, and then you've got gold optic inserts, and then you've got gold prism inserts, and then you've got gold select, and then you've got gold wave select, and then you've got gold different level select. When you add all that stuff up, I am sure it is in the thousands for rookies now. But if you're asking me which players' cards to invest in from this class, I think the answer is No, I personally don't see any of these guys. If I had to pick one, I'd pick Benedict Mathurin, in the hopes that he could be, a Donovan Mitchell type wing. Obviously his size is pretty good. I see maybe the most collectability in Benedict Mathurin. Banchero is still sort of a true big. I can do guard things. I understand that, but I just worry that he's got so much Blake Griffin to him, and we see where Blake's cards are. And Blake was a freaking many time All-Star and NBA All NBA guy, and probably a Hall of Famer. I know that sounds weird, but probably I guess I'd need to go look at Hall of Fame likelihood and probability. Maybe that's a stretch, but I probably need to go look. I think Blake Griffin's probably a Hall of Famer, and we look and see what his cards are worth. So I see a Blake Griffin type career for Paulo Banchero. Obviously, he's a little more skilled from the outset, but obviously he's also, albeit athletic, nowhere near the athlete and freak of nature that Blake Griffin was. So if I had to choose, I'd rather bank on Mathurin than Jaden Ivey learning to become a proficient shooter. If Jaden Ivey learns to shoot the ball at a really good clip and, becomes a 48, 38, 85 guy, look out, because he's going to be an absolute man-child. But I think I'm going to put my money on Benedict Mathurin being that dude, just because I've seen what he's doing off the bench in Indiana. And I like the fact that he's next to Tyrese Halliburton, because I think Tyrese Halliburton would gladly hand over that alpha scoring role to Benedict Mathurin, because that's the type of player that Tyrese Halliburton is. I think he wants to win. He wants to create baskets, whether he's doing it himself or assisting. He does not care. I get that vibe. I've heard him talk. I've seen him interviewed. Really like Tyrese Halliburton. Again, not from a card standpoint, but from an NBA player franchise point guard cornerstone standpoint. I think Mathurin is in a very fertile place to explode and become the best of these players. If I had to buy cards, if you're looking for a penny stock, I think Jalen Williams would probably be the direction that I would look. And I'm scrolling through this list to see if there's anybody else that could just literally emerge and be a franchise type guy. I just don't see it. Does that mean it's not somewhere buried in here in the the 20s to 30s? Maybe it is. I don't know. Maybe it's a guy that got moved down to the G League. Who knows, man? You never know in the NBA. Giannis is a great reminder that you never know who you're going to find in the dollar box. And for that reason, prospecting is always going to be around. It's always going to exist in the card market. So anyway, let me know what you guys think. Is there a rookie out there that you guys have kept your eye on, maybe that you have on your fantasy team that you're playing that's providing and being productive for you? I don't think there is, because Banchero is 110th in a category-based 8-category Roto league. So I don't think there's any sneaky rookies out here that I missed. But if you're a card prospector, who's your guy? Let me know. You don't have to tell me what you're buying. I mean, everybody's got their own opinion on what cards to buy and what the best price point is and what the best products. But if there's a rookie out there that you're super high on, let me know who it is. I just don't think this rookie class measures up to the prior 4 or even 5 rookie classes, because 2017 was no joke either, as we know, with Jason Tatum and some of those fellas. So anyway, as always, thank you guys for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. I'm about to jump on a plane and go to Phoenix for my daughter's soccer college showcase. So I will be out of pocket, but I've already got videos lined up for you guys to watch. As you know, I'm pretty consistent, and so you guys should have 3 or 4 videos in the next 3 or 4 days to enjoy. As always, thanks for watching. Keep collecting, stay positive in the hobby, and peace.